It's time to roll your sleeves up and get your hands dirty with Friends of the Earth. Dirt Radio.
And that's right, you're on Dirt Radio with Colin, Rob, and Sammy here. Dirt Radio is a show sponsored by Friends of the Earth in Melbourne, so you can check us out on www.fo.org.au. And a special big thanks to Yarabug for their show just before. So today, I have the chance to have Rob and Sammy here in the studio. 3 weeks ago, I met them in a cafe from a mutual friend. And Rob is the founder of the incredible Indigenous Education Foundation. Rob's aim is to help displaced Indigenous people to build themselves a better future by supporting them in the development of educational solutions based on the preservation and utilization of traditional knowledge, customs, and understanding localized ecosystem. Wow, that's a big job you have to do here. We're going to have the 30-minute show is going to be all around this foundation. How are you doing, mate?
I'm very well, Colin. Pleasure to be here.
How are you, Sammy?
Very well, thank you.
Perfect. That's good. So you spent the last 6 years working and developing a strong partnership and friendship with indigenous in the forest of Indonesia. Is that right?
Yeah, in a small island chain called Mentawai, which is in West Sumatra in Indonesia. Yeah.
How did you meet these people?
I initially went over there to go surfing, actually. Mentawai is really popular for surfing. It's sort of probably arguably the mecca for surfing, I think. And so I went out there and, I just found myself quite intrigued by the local community and particularly their culture. And so I decided to go and live with the community. And so I initially lived with a small coconut farming community there. I didn't really know too much about the area and what was available. I tried to find a community that was as far removed from modern influence as possible, just to try and get a sense of what their culture was like. And so I that was the community that I found, and I went there, and it was interesting. They hadn't really had I suppose direct interaction with a Western person before. So I mean they had, but no one living within their community. They weren't connected to the surf tourism industry, so there was obviously all that going on around them, but they didn't have that direct interaction. So I went there, and so it was quite a novelty, I tell you.
Yes.
Yeah.
How do they live?
Well, there in that community, there were aspects of their lifestyle that was still directly related to the land, so living self-sufficiently, but at the same time they were connected to the financial economic system as well, so trying to farm coconuts and they sell copra there, which they sell for 30 cents a kilo or something like that, so they make very little money. So they were finding life quite difficult, and I was really interested in more in culture and in those those sustainable practices. So I was trying to focus on those, the fishing, and their sago, which is the staple food. So the process of making that and little bits and pieces. But I did find it hard because there was the majority, I think, of conversation was talking about how difficult life sort of was there. They didn't have much opportunity for employment and to earn money. So I just tried to, I suppose, overlook that and focus more on those sustainable practices.
How big was this community?
Quite small, probably 10 houses, 10 homes, maybe 5 to a home. But there were a lot of people coming and going because it was a coconut farming community. And there was people from other villages that owned the coconuts and owned the land, and so there would often be groups that come in for 3 or 4 week periods just to farm the coconut, and then off they'd go, which was good in that I was able to learn a bit more about language and lifestyle from other islands, but also challenging because it was like the people within the village where I was staying, they'd sort of got used to having me around, but then new groups would come and they're like, oh, what, there's a white guy living here, okay, we'll go and spend a day looking at him and talking about him, and that was quite continuous. And so, not that it was. I mean, it was good because it helped me to learn the language and interact. But yeah, just challenging, I suppose, because it was because I couldn't understand for quite a while. I couldn't understand what they were saying, and it was quite tiring. But
and so, like now, you created this foundation. You help them with education. Could you tell us like more? How did you find them, and why do you think they would need to be provided with like more indigenous education based on the traditional knowledge?
Well, it wasn't till I moved further into the forest. So after I was probably in that community for about 6 months or 8 months, and then so I was, by that point I could understand the local dialect and I knew a little bit about the culture. And then from there I'd found out that there was a community living further in the jungle that still practiced traditional culture, and so I ended up going in there. And it wasn't until I arrived there that I saw this really profound contrast between the two communities, and in that those that were still connected to their culture and living sort of self-sufficient that way were incredibly, I mean, happy is an easy word to throw, but they were incredibly proud of, and confident in who they were, and that then I was able to look back at the community that I'd just come from, the settlement community, and see, how much that had impacted them, that disconnection from their culture, and it didn't really make sense to me. They'd come from, at one point of time, they'd all come from this way of life, and so they'd been given these, supposed developments, and seemed to have gone backwards. So I then devoted, I think, the next 6 or 7 years to researching and trying to understand, exactly why, what the cause of this was, which, we found to be that disconnection from culture. That's the root cause of this. And so from there, I engaged with local members of the community, and there was a couple that had taken a lot of interest in what I was doing, and talking to them about the situation, and then asking them what they think the solution is, and then they've come up with the idea of providing an opportunity for the community to learn, so an education program for them to learn about culture and whatnot. And so then from there, I really just tried to help empower them. So asking them, well, okay, well, what do we need to do this, and if it's funding or support with documents, or talking to government officials and what have you, and so yeah, just throughout the next few years, we've worked on developing this community education program, which is called Suku Mentawai, and once we'd sort of got to a point where we're looking to start implementing, we really need some funding and support from, I suppose, an international audience or some outside of Mentawai, and so I decided to establish the Indigenous Education Foundation here in Australia. Just to try and help raise awareness and support for this program. But also, I set it up as a bit more of a universal foundation, in that, because I feel like this model can apply to displaced communities all around the world, not just in Mentawai. So just set it up with the long-term vision that, we can, empower communities here in Australia, or in Africa, or those that are wanting
in South America, or even north in Siberia, or in other so many places all around the world. We got exactly the same problem. Why do you think the Indonesian government resettled this community?
I think it's hard to say the exact reasons, but they to hazard a guess, I'd say motivation was monetary, but they have programs that were designed to integrate the tribal communities into the sort of social and cultural mainstream. And so that when Mentawai became part of Indonesia, which was in 1950, in 1954 or just a few years after that, they started implementing these programs there to bring them out of the forest and into these settlements where they could be provided nationalised schooling and whatnot. And so I mean, I'd say the reasons are probably similar to that they are in all other parts of the world with assimilating Indigenous communities. But yeah, it doesn't seem to have had a positive impact. Looking at
because people, when they lived in a forest, they could, as you say, that they were pretty happy, could live like sustainable. They moved into these communities where they need to grow coconut for 30 cents the kilo, and they're struggling getting jobs. Can they move into bigger city?
Of course they can, but it's that's displacement, because at the moment they've been brought out of the forest and put into these schools and taught to read and write and be more Indonesian and which is obviously important. And speaking with the community, through the research we've done, they do want to modernise. They want better schooling facilities and communication and all those sorts of things. But they also want to learn about their culture, which at the moment they don't have the opportunity to do. But the situation is that they learn how to read and write and these skills in placement of their traditional education. So they're now in an environment where they know how to read and write, but there's no opportunity for employment. So, and because they no longer know how to go into the forest and find food, and they no longer know how to live self-sustainably or self-sufficiently, they're essentially being educated into poverty. So so that's, I suppose, the issue, and that's why the program is so important. To integrate both the cultural education and the nationalised.
Yeah, totally, and making sure like they're proud of their culture and they can teach their kids also, and
it's so important to maintain that connection, understanding who you are and where you're from. I think that's there's learning about the animals and the plants and learning how to survive self-sufficiency is one, but then having that connection to who you are is, I think, equally as important, if not more.
Yeah, we can see like all around the world that resettlement of indigenous communities break their culture a lot, and some governments think that indigenous people should adapt themselves to the capitalist lifestyle. I reckon it's so shameful and barbarian type of things to do to trying to push them to adapt to our culture or to someone else's culture. What do you reckon should be like the ideal best solution?
I think it's entirely up to the people, and I think that it should always be left up to the people to make that decision. So I mean, I can only speak, I suppose, on behalf of the Mentawai, because I've done a lot of research and have spoken to them about this. And they do want to modernise, but they also want to learn about their culture. So I suppose for them, an integration of a combination of both of those. So they're learning, or their Mentawai economy's perhaps growing. It's modernising in a way that is sustainable for them. And so and for it to be that, I think that they need to combine that with their native skills and practices, and I mean culture is their greatest fortune and the greatest wealth, and so if that is taken away, then it's a bit of a worry for their future. I think just a combination of both of those, but left up to the community to decide, and that's largely what our model's about. It's not going in there and saying, well, I've got a great idea of how you can better yourself or better your future, and it's more about providing them with information about their situation, if that's what they require, and then talking to them about what they think they need, and then just providing support for that.
Yeah, that's brilliant. You're not coming as a superhero with the best idea and trying to push them going into that way or that way to save them.
It'd never be sustainable if unless it's of their own accord and their own, them taking ownership of it. No, I think that's it's displacement, really.
I think we've seen that doesn't work. I mean, European colonisation did a wealth of good for all the cultures that they kind of came into. Very sarcastic there. So it's just a matter of kind of having a new way of seeing it and seeing that they are the ones that have the answers for their own community. They just need the support and recognition of that.
Well, they have to have control over their own lives. I think that's one of the biggest problems with that being displaced, losing control of your own life, and that's often where they're quite vulnerable, and that's where alcoholism and drugs and all those sort of problems can come in, as we've seen, in Australia, with our Indigenous communities.
Totally. Let's meditate on that one, and we'll be back after the community announcement. So stay tuned.
Culture gives our life meaning. Without it, we suffer. This is evident amongst displaced Indigenous communities all around the world. For the past 7 years, we've been working with Indigenous people to develop a program that enables communities to utilise their culture as a means to reduce long-term poverty.
Right now, we need your help to raise much-needed funding to get this program off the ground. Make a tax-deductible donation of $50 and receive an entry ticket to a family-friendly day of live music, food, festivities, and a chance to win $2,000 cash. The event will take place on the 5th of March at the foothills of the Mount Macedon Ranges.
You have an incredible opportunity to help us achieve our goals and impact the future for Indigenous peoples. For more information about this project and to purchase tickets, go to www.asworldsdivide.com.
Friends of the Earth is a 3CR supporter.
And you're back on Dirt Radio with Colin, Rob and Sammy. Dirt Radio is a show sponsored by Friends of the Earth. We were talking about the foundation, Indigenous Education Foundation, and the great job Rob is doing by empowering Indigenous community in Indonesia and around the world to have better access to the culture. Rob, you covered with traditional Indigenous tattoo. Could you tell me more about that part of the culture?
Yeah, it's a very large part of Mentawai culture. I don't know exactly, but I'm told it's one of the oldest tattoo traditions and cultures in the world. And yeah, I'm not completely sure. There was a chap from Padang who was doing a lot of research on it, but he's passed away a few years ago, so I think his son's continuing it. But anyway, they practice. It's a form of identification, as in a lot of tribal communities, and also a clothing. For them, they often ask, what's the meaning, and they talk about it as in, well, it's like you have so Western people, have your best type of clothing that you'd wear if you're going to some special event, and that, this is the Mentawai clothing, and yeah, I've just over the years sort of acquired a few souvenirs. It's I consider myself quite privileged, I suppose, to have been tattooed by some of the shamans over there, and each region's different. So the tribe that I stay with, in the clan that I stay with, I've got the tattoos that are, that identification from that region. So, if you went further north into central Siberut Island or further north, there's quite significant differences in the designs. But when we see those people, you obviously know that you're from that area.
So you've learned how to make tattoo also, like you told me that you were starting to make tattoo and on the traditional way. Could you go a little bit further with that?
Yeah, they've been, during my time over there, they've seemed to be quite enthusiastic about teaching me how to do the tattooing, and I think that's because there is not many people doing it there anymore. A lot of those that know how to do the tattoos are a bit older now, and they're having problems with their eyesight, and so there's the younger generation aren't really interested in it. They're more interested in the Western style tattoos as opposed to their own, and so there's no one really taking it on. So I feel like that is perhaps part of the reason, and since being able to sort of gaining that skill, I've been asked to tattoo a few of the local people. There's still quite a lot of the elder people that are interested in getting their tattoos finished or getting them, and so the last few times I've been over there, there's been a few people waiting to get some tattoos, and so at the moment, I've sort of brought that skill back here. So I'm doing fundraising for the community program, and I just felt that might be a good idea, to offer that opportunity to people here if they're interested in not specifically the Mentawai tattoos, but perhaps something influenced by that style or for their own
Sammy,
design.
you're having some great skills in designing.
It's been a lot of fun, actually. It's a bit. I love drawing, so being able to give that gift to somebody else and have it permanently with them on their life journey is a pretty honor. I feel very honoured to have that.
So, guys, if you have like an idea to have like you yourself to have a tattoo, a traditional one made by Rob and designed by Sammy, just like get in touch with them, and I'll tell the website a little bit further during the program. To create more public awareness around your foundation, you made a film. So the film is As World Divide.
Yeah.
And could you tell us about that film and the fundraising around it?
Yeah. The film, well, initially when I went to Mentawai, I had a camera with me, and so I'd started documenting, not really knowing what I was documenting. I think, as I mentioned earlier, I was quite interested in those sustainable practices, and and the culture too. But I was finding it hard to really understand what the culture was in that initial community. So anyway, I was just filming, and I've basically filmed and documented the whole 7-year process up until now. And so the films I'm hoping to use as a awareness raising tool, and to people can see the film and understand the situation there, and also the solution to, or proposed avenue to a solution, and hopefully you can get some support around that too. So it's hoping to release it later this year. At the moment, we're doing fundraising for the post production.
Yes.
I'm sitting down with an editor in March. There's already quite an advanced draft of the film, but just to finalise. So sitting down with an editor for 3 weeks, and by the end of that, we'll have a picture lock. And so hopefully later this year, we'll release that film.
And so, as we listen in our community announcements, we got you're going to launch a part of the fundraising campaign on the 5th of March. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, we're having an event out in Riddles Creek, backwards raffle draw, where the prize will be $2,000 cash, actually. So nice, everyone likes a bit of cash, and that's the money we raise for there is to go toward the program, but also, and part of that will go toward finishing the film. So we've just got a little bit more money to raise for just a few aspects of the post production. So that's on March the 5th to, I think, start at around 12 or 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock, yep.
Yeah, and what's gonna happen during this afternoon?
We'll have some live music there, and there'll be plenty of food and drinks, and it's out in the country. Riddles Creek's just a small country town out at the foot of Mount Macedon, so it'll be a nice country environment. Might be some ducks and chickens wandering around.
Yeah, good, like family friendly spot to spend. It's at a Saturday.
It's a Saturday.
Yeah, it's great to spend the Saturday. We slowly getting a little bit running out of time. So we had a great chat about the foundation. We're talking with Rob and Sammy about the foundation to help to empower the indigenous community to get their culture back. And we can check your website is www.iefprograms.org, and also hasworlddivide.com.
Yeah. Yeah, iefprograms.org is the Indigenous Education Foundation.
Yes.
And then hasworlddivide.com, that's the film. And then through there, there's a website up for Suku Mentawai as well, but you can link through IEF programs to that.
So, Rob is the one running this the program plus the film.
The program is actually will be run by the community. So,
okay.
I've got a couple of those members I've mentioned before that are engaged with and that we're taking ownership. Esmat, who's a director, and August, the manager. So that's their program. I'm working with them, obviously, but really just supporting them. So
with the information,
and financial support and sort of campaigning and working. I'm working with them quite closely, but just because that That's a relationship. I've been there for quite a long time, but yeah, I'm not making any of those decisions for them. That's very much up to them, you know, how they'd like to develop and implement.
And you're helping like with fundraising and like raising money
Yeah.
to go with the program for the local community to really work with this money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Definitely see you on the 5th of March. So in Macedon, get all the information as worldsdivide.com. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you very much for coming in the studio.
No worries. Thanks for having us.
So still time to join the fight against the giant mining company in New South Wales. So go to Moles Creek and stop a bulldozer. Protect the forest. Check out Frontline Action on Call. They need you. They're having like some great direct action at the moment. You can also follow them on Facebook, still Frontline Action on Call, Twitter with the hashtag Gomoroy or FLAC. Just have a look at what's going on in Moles Creek. We need to save this forest. Thank you very much for listening Dirt Radio. Let's catch up next week for more activist stuff. Dirt Radio is affiliated with Friends of the Earth Melbourne, so go to the website at www.fo.org.au and support our kick-ass campaigns with a donation. Stay with 3CR for Black Bloc coming right up, and now we're going to listen something a little bit pumping for Monday. Let's do like Shut Down in Flames by Akadek. Ciao guys.